Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching tonight. It's probably going to be my last episode of the year for No Icing. So, with the holidays coming and everything. So, I have a special show. We've been planning this show for months. Let me bring up my. Oh, hold on, I got an echo. Sorry about the echo. Okay, here we go. So let me bring up my favorite co-host, the man of 1,000 voices, Mr. Rory Penland.
1,001.
Yay!
At least on TikTok. 1,001.
Oh, 1,001. I'm sorry.
Yes. I started
How
out as
are
the
you?
man of voices, and then everybody's like, "Oh, well, Free Kelly Ender's the man of 1,000 voices." I'm like, really? You're gonna do this to me? All right, 1,001. How about that? I don't think Frank Calienda has ever gone and done 847 voices in an hour on YouTube. All right, I did it, so I think I can call myself.
You sure did. I was there for that.
Yep.
I was sweating for you. I was like,
what I do, Doc.
well, not to give it away or anything, but our special guest tonight is a puppeteer, a professional puppeteer.
He's into puppetry. Yes, I'm excited about it.
I was gonna say maybe
do a lot of puppet voices.
Maybe Bridget the duck and Felix can introduce her. And do you have a friend that can help introduce our guest?
Actually, the only puppet that I was able to find was a puppet that I gave to my daughter, and he's Kermit the Frog. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. But I'm thinking, because I do several different shows and stuff, and I have several items near me here. I forgot that I have Salvador Dali. He is here. Do you like the Salvador Dali paintings? Yes. Here I am, Salvador Dali. I am a Salvador Dali. I am.
Okay, well, now that we've tried. Oh, you have more.
Man, am I angry. I think I'm gonna stomp on a city. That's my new Godzilla impersonation. Man, am I angry? God, my back is hot. Can you see it? I'm gonna use some atomic breath.
Well, let me bring up our guest, Kathy Soher, all the way live and direct from North Carolina. Here we go.
No.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. It's your first
Thank you
time
so
on
much.
Cosmos. Welcome.
I'm so glad to be here, and you have given me excellent segues into a lot of the topics we're going to talk about. You're already using different styles of puppetry, including one of my favorites, Roy object puppetry with your Godzilla. So I am going to be hitting you up to do some voices, but I love that you both brought puppets, and so I'm so excited. And yeah, so
we're excited.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And you've been busy also. We planned this months ago because from what I understand, you've been super duper busy and you have a new website up. So everyone should go encourage everyone to go follow Kathy on her website. Hoopla, is it hoopalapuppetry.com?
Yes, it's hoopalapuppetry.com, and I'm on social media on Facebook and Instagram. So a way to remember it is, what's all the hoopla about? And hopefully, we'll pitch that again at the end. So I appreciate it. And I just launched all of this last month. So it is just getting up and running, but I will, if you want, if it's a good, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my background in puppetry and kind of bring us up to how I launched Hoopla Puppetry, which was last month.
Are we talking Hoopla, Fran, and Ollie?
Kukla, Fran, and Ollie.
Oh, Kukla. I'm sorry. The Hoopla, Fran, and Ollie. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I love Hoopla, Fran, and Ollie. Though I actually love that. I do remember Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. So, and it's funny because part of, we'll weave a little bit through the history of puppetry, although it's very vast. We'll only touch on a portion of it, but some of those old television shows that I grew up on that really helped encourage and cultivate my love of puppetry. One, of course, which is the Muppets, which you have Kermit there. And I guess you didn't introduce us to your puppet friend, Sandy.
Yeah, I have a little, I have children, so I have a basket of these different ones.
I love it. And that's what I'd really like to talk about too, how they've experienced puppetry and what their memories are of puppetry, if any. And part of what I really am hoping to do with my puppetry is broaden people's exposure to puppetry. I think a lot of people may associate it with strictly children, which is not necessarily or not at all the case. So I want to talk, as I said, about the history of puppetry. So,
well, Jim Henson has proved that wrong.
Pardon me?
Jim Henson has proved that wrong.
Well, and right. And so, so I'll get to all that. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself just to start off. I, as a child, loved puppetry. Again, grew up on Sesame Street, was obsessed with all of the children's puppetry, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, H&R Puff and stuff. And, in the 70s, when I grew up there, that was a real heyday for puppetry on television, incorporated on a lot of shows. And it really
even going further back to
the
50s, like you said, with Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, and Hey Buffalo, Howdy Doody.
Yes.
The Thunderbirds.
Absolutely.
Stingray.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Captain Kangaroo, if I remember, had puppets. And of course, Lamb Chop. And if you remember, I'm backwards on the screen here. Even Sir Wences, do you remember? If I'm saying it right, he just had a mustache, and he would be. And again, think about how simple that is. So when we're talking about puppetry, I really want to go through some of the different styles and help people recognize that it's a very wide format that you can work with. So, but I really loved puppets. I had puppets when I was a child. I had a scarf marionette puppet. I had a box of puppets that I really played with, and I really just loved it and dreamed about being a puppeteer. And when I was in college, not for puppeteering, I went to the University of Connecticut, which people may not know, you can actually study puppetry as a profession in a theater program. And the University of Connecticut in Storrs, UConn, is one of the most prestigious programs in the country. And it was founded, you can actually get an MFA. The founder, I didn't know that it even existed, that program, until my last year that I was in school there. And when I was there, I found out about it and started to take some classes there with the man who founded the program. And I was part of his last production, which was a 2.5-hour operetta of the HMS Pinafore, Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore. There were over 100 puppets. There were 11 puppeteers. And it was such a large scale production. Really, almost you had to do it in a, not that you had to do it, but doing it in an academic environment where you don't necessarily, you have the financial support to do that, because, you know, we were students, we weren't being paid, which we were learning. So it was, but we practiced for, you know, months and ended up doing you know, a 2-week run, if I remember now, a long time ago. And then going to a puppet festival with it, which I didn't even know that puppet festivals were a thing. And I cannot encourage anyone more, if you get the chance, to go to a puppet festival. They're really wonderful. But in my 20s, I traveled with a marionette troupe for several of their seasons. Went up across the Northeast to schools where we performed for children. And then in my the next few decades, I created my own shows by myself and with collaborators. And those were mostly for adults. I did a few things for children, but largely for adults. And that was really where I was finding, I was working full time and I was doing it on the side, but really finding a lot of good artistic fertile ground and really enjoying it. And I'm a musician as well. So a lot of times I would combine, you know, write songs and combine it with puppetry. And we put on cabarets with puppets. I opened, a band asked us to open for their CD release at an Irish bar. And we walked in with a cardboard box and shadow puppets and into a very rowdy bar, and it, you know, the place quieted down. So I actually was commissioned to do a friend's wedding ceremony. I did a custom show for the wedding ceremonies, and you know, and then so I always said I'm going to do puppets full time one day. And as so many people with the pandemic, my life took a lot of unexpected turns, and I said, well, you know what, this seems to be the time. So it's one of those very fortuitous things where Sandy had reached out to me, and I was really in the moment of flux of taking that leap. So I so appreciate this opportunity to share puppetry and be with you all here today. So that's like I said, a little bit of my background. And when go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just said, so glad to have you.
Yeah. And please feel free to ask me questions as I go along to keep myself on track. I made some notes so I don't go off in too many tangents. But like I said, there's many reasons I love puppetry. And you'll see on my website when I was constructing it, I said, well, what am I really doing this for? And for me, it really came down to joy. It gives me so much joy. It gives me so much happiness. And I feel like it does that for other people too. When you see a performance, and there's something now about, I think that, and I'm a fan of a lot of the AI in animation, and I feel that all has a place in art. But for me, there is also something really, I think, grounding, and people are wanting and needing, at least I am, to go back to those tactile, let's see something in person, experience the arts and crafts that puppetry brings.
Mhm.
I really love that. And then I love the theater of it.
I mean, I like what I like too for children is like, you know, would you rather just me go, hey, you need to go brush your teeth now. It's bedtime. Or do you want me to go, hey, I think you should go brush your teeth?
That's a
And it
great
makes things
point.
more fun for children, you know?
Absolutely. And you really just embodied what puppetry is, which is animating an inanimate object. That's ultimately at the core of puppetry. And it's giving life to something that is inanimate. So and that is done, in a number of ways, and with a number again of formats. But what I love, when you were doing earlier, Rory, you had your Godzilla
He
doll or
loves
toy.
Godzilla. Don't even get him started.
Object
But
puppetry.
if we
He'll
were going
take
to
over
do,
the whole show with Godzilla.
well, but if we were going to try and do a film where Godzilla destroys a city, that would be very expensive. Or if we tried to do a theater production, but with puppetry, you could take Godzilla and just set up some, cardboard boxes that you have drawn with, you could take a Sharpie and turn them into buildings, and you could knock them down, you could set them on fire, or you could even, create, make paint some flames on a piece of cardboard and put it in front of the building while Godzilla steps over it. So for no money, essentially, some free cardboard boxes or some, toys that you have around the house that are buildings, you can create a very,
Oh, and the
if not
kids still make the
realistic,
paper
a
bag.
very
The paper
theatrical.
bag. They still have them make paper bag puppets at school. You
I
know,
I was saying to Sandy before we went live, you can't see, but I have tables around me covered in puppets, and one of them is um, a paper plate puppet, just to show like how basic you can go. A puppet that's made out of paper plates. So yeah, I
yeah,
am a fan of it all.
I
So
love it all.
yeah,
Now,
so
do you make most of your own puppets, or
So it depends. I make a
kind of a
lot of them. When I used to do, and I've done a lot of shadow puppet shows, and those I tend to make a lot of them because they're custom. I'll show you. I have some that I've made, and I'll show you. Um, I'm doing a show now that I made all the puppets for, and it took me months. The show is it started off at 7 minutes, and now it's up to 12, 15 minutes, and it took me months. And they're not even complicated necessarily puppets, but I'll show you one later. But there were so many scenes in it, so it is a labor of love. But I'm also a big fan of using, I buy a lot of puppets too, because
yeah?
I think they can give you a lot of ideas that you may not necessarily have had. It's a little bit of I feel sometimes I joke that I'm a cardboard and hoarder, and because I just make a lot of things out of cardboard. I love it. But also puppets, if I see a cheap puppet, I will tend to buy it and justify it very easily. So a little bit of a puppet hoarder that I can justify. But
Puppet
it,
hoarder.
when you start looking around, I was thinking, and I was getting ready for this podcast, Stephen King, I remember hearing him talk on a show years ago about how his mind works. And he said, when most people walk through a hotel lobby and they see the hose wrapped up, in a big hotel, you'll have it on a spindle and it'll be very long. He said, they just see a hose.
Yeah.
He said, I see it unraveling and it going down the hallway and strangling someone, and almost like snake like. And I think it's in a movie of his, and they showed that clip. And to me, although that's, that's even that is a form of puppetry, because you're taking this ordinary object and you're turning it into something. So for example, this may not look like a puppet to you. Sorry, I don't know where this camera is going. It's a jelly, plastic jelly jar, Smuckers. But I am using this in, I haven't made it yet, but I'm not going to take much more. This is going to be a jellyfish in a show that I'm doing. So I'm going to add some fins and some eyes, or I may just do, I don't have to do too much, but and it's a fast joke, but there's the jellyfish. And that goes with, and talking about making things, these two, so I combined these two pieces. This is a plastic seahorse toy, and from Toy Story. This is so confusing doing it separately. So this is for an underwater rodeo scene. So he's not done yet, but I thought it would be a good example to show you. So, he'll be going around.
There's a seahorse
and then a jellyfish will go by. Sorry, I can't see where this is going. A jellyfish will go by. And now that wasn't great puppetry that you just saw, but you can get the idea of, how things can evolve, and you can just start, to me, kind of starting to have fun with it. Hopefully that made sense.
Jace, do you know Jace Harmon?
Now, it's funny you said Stephen King. Jay Sherman?
Jace Harmon said good morning or afternoon or evening on YouTube. Who's watching over on YouTube.
Oh, great. Hi, thanks for watching.
You were talking about Stephen King earlier. And that's funny because the only puppet shows that I've ever performed, I've been performing since I was 14 years old. And the only puppet shows I've ever done, I did 2 of them, were for a skit comedy group called Dr. Piranha Super Sci-Fi Theater. And we had Stephen King storybook time. And what we would do, we had an actor who looked like Stephen King, reading Stephen King, one was Little Blood Red Riding Hood. And the other was Snow White and the Schizophrenic Dwarf. And these were bloody puppet shows that we did.
That is genius. If that is online, I would love to see that. But
they're on YouTube.
And that's what I love about them. I'm sorry, say it again.
I said they're on YouTube. I'll have to send you links.
Yeah, please do. And again,
I think you would enjoy them.
That's what I love about the creativity. In fact, I just did a 48-hour puppet film festival for Halloween. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but segueing from what you just said. And that was really creative. It was actually sponsored by Heather Henson's organization, who is one of Jim Henson's children, and she's a beautiful puppeteer in her own right. And she is very supportive of puppetry arts. And her foundation, the Green Feather Foundation, put on a 40-hour film festival, Halloween film festival for puppetry. And that is in 48 hours, much like they do for film festival, you have 48 hours to create a short film. These were 3 minutes long, and they gave you prompts. So the prompts were, the theme was unknown legend. The object you had to include was a button, and the action you had to use was consider. So for mine, and this is online, you can see it. Let me see if I can find the 2 puppets. But so I ended up making this puppet, which was a Freddy Krueger puppet. And when you talk about, so I only had 40 hours, so you didn't have to make everything, but how this started was I have a Freddie Mercury marionette that I've had someone, unfortunately I don't have, not in my, despite the dozens of puppets I have around me, it's in the other room, but I had this Freddie Mercury marionette that my friend gave me and I'd never used. And I just said, all of a sudden I said, Halloween, Freddie Mercury, and I was looking around at my puppets, what I could use. I said, Freddie Mercury, Freddy Krueger. And that's where I started. And so again, I made him, and this is a paper bag.
Wow.
These are just bottle caps. And I lucked out that I had, this is a koozie sweater, but then I added the stripes. So it just, it's actually from a store and I just turned it around.
Oh,
So it
clever.
came out very well. I'm ridiculously, the hat, this was a 40-hour film festival, and took me 2 hours to make this hat, and it was in the film for not even 10 seconds. So note to self to monitor my time better. But it's one of those things, you kind of get lost in the details. But I think that that's a fun puppet, and I'm not just mean to go out of frame there, but I'll use him again, and then I'm not sure, I have somewhere.
He needs a mustache. Freddy Krueger Mercury needs a mustache.
Yeah, well, Freddy Krueger. Yeah, well, he wasn't Freddy Krueger Mercury, but that's a great idea. I combined them. But then in that show too, I used something called toy theater art, which is you just like a cardboard cutout. And so this is John Legend. So in the show, it was Forgotten Legends, and this is, if you watch the movie now, this is kind of the payoff. I'm giving it away.
I thought it was Pee Wee Herman for a second there.
I'm sorry?
I thought it was Pee Wee Herman for a second there.
Oh no, it's John
I
Legend.
thought for a second. It's John Legend.
I couldn't say it.
And that was the joke for the movie that I made when we're talking about legends. But again, so when we're talking about puppetry, I'm gonna go back to my notes here, but let me ask you, I think that when you think about puppetry, what are some of you already talked about Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. Do you have memories of puppets when you actually have done puppetry? So more you've already said, but maybe Sandy, what if I said puppetry to you, what comes to mind?
I actually had to create some Bunraku puppets for a Wizard of Oz show. They wanted to show the tornado around the house, and they wanted to show the face of the almighty Oz. So we created Bunraku puppets for those things for the show. A friend of mine, Lee Anderson, and I. And that's the only other really, but I was going to ask you about the history of puppetry. What are some of the older, like our marionettes, the first kind of puppets? And I mean, I don't think we started seeing like just hand puppets until maybe the 50s or 60s, but I could be wrong about that. I know that marionettes have been around a long time.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not, I did study the history of puppetry. It's been a long time, and I went back and pulled some notes up, but I don't want to present myself as the, any sort of end all authority on this. But basically, puppetry started thousands of years ago. Some estimates like 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. Maybe, where it started is debatable. China, Indonesia, certainly. Egypt. They even found in pyramids rod puppets that dolls that they think are puppetry. But I'm going to go back. Even I didn't see this on Wikipedia, but or in my notes. But think about maybe some of the first puppets. I would say are shadow puppets, and that would be in front of a fire. If you remember when you're little and you're sleeping over at someone's house and you're doing your hand shadow puppets. Well, those, I think that's to me, probably one of the earliest forms of puppetry. And that it then evolved into, this is a shadow puppet, which is a very old style. I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to do a demonstration back. I'm going to light that screen up and show you some shadow puppets that I made, and I'll do this too very quickly just to give you a sense. But what happens is you put, you light up the screen. Well, maybe I'll just show it now.
Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah. All right. So what it is it's lit from behind. And so this is a traditional, I don't know if this is Balinese or Indonesian, but so I'll show you this, and hopefully you can hear me back there and see it. And then I will show you some puppets that I made, and I'll just do it very quickly, but. So can you see this?
Yeah.
And I have a light on, so I may need to turn the light off back here. Might make it show up better, but hold on.
It's very big in Indonesia.
Yeah. So that's
Very
shadow puppet.
good.
And then, for example, can you see this?
Yeah, dolphin.
Yeah. And then so
Yep.
for that, and then I'll bring them up front. And then here's another example of a show I did. And this was to music. So you can see the children going. So, for example, and maybe I need to turn that light back on in the back. But so this is an example of the shadow puppet, and this is a gel.
Yeah.
Gel for that you put in, so the light comes through it. Should I turn that light back on?
Wherever you think. However.
I don't know how I look on the screen. I don't know if it's better on the screen if you tell me.
Oh
So
no, you look fine right now.
okay.
Yeah.
So when we go through, did you have a question, Rory, or you have something to say?
No. I was just agreeing. I was just saying, yeah.
Jace Harmon from watching on YouTube just said they have a request. What's the request? I don't know what the request is. We'll wait and see.
Okay. Yeah, bring the request. So that style. So you have this is also another style of puppets called a hand and rod puppet, and the rods are with the arms. And this is actually in this one there. Getting very confused by this television. Let me go this way. And this is kind of like the style of a Muppets, actually, like Kermit. Although their mouth moves, but that rod, yeah. And I have a hand up here. But when we're talking about the history, you mentioned Boone Raku. To let people know, I really wanted to bring that up as well. And I actually had a picture to show them. I don't know how well it'll show on my fire screen, but Boone Raku, which I mentioned, is a very old traditional form of Japanese puppetry. And I remember learning about it when I was at the University of Connecticut and being so blown away, because with how they actually study it, there's 3 puppeteers to each puppet, and it starts off by it's a quite a large puppet, and one person operates the head and the right hand, the master puppeteer. One person operates the left hand, and then someone there's I don't have a fabric here, but you would actually watch. I'll grab this. Grab my hat. The feet are done by someone where their hands are folded up and they manipulate the feet. So 3 people are operating this one puppet in tandem. But here's the amazing thing, to make it seamless. So you are working all very complex coordination. Here's what's amazing to me. Do you know, Rory, how long it takes? It's the feet is the first one, the left hand is the second level, and the head and the right hand is the third. Do you know how long it takes to operate each of those levels in the traditional style?
Oh, I have no idea.
10 years. You study for 10 years before you can do the feet. And then it's 15 years you move up to the left hand. And then it's like 20 years to be the right hand and the head. And I've never seen it live. They come to the United States, I think, on occasion on tour. And I mean, maybe they're not exactly 20 years, but it's an enormous commitment to a career. And I remember hearing that and being blown away. I've seen it only on video, but it's something I really hope to experience someday. And then I have never done this style, but there's something called tabletop puppetry. And that's where, I don't know if you can see behind me, you would have a puppet. I don't have an example of a tabletop puppet, but would be operating. You can actually see the puppeteer and they're doing it right in front of you. And I think that's another concept that people maybe don't realize, that with puppetry, traditionally you think maybe you don't see the puppeteer, but in reality, a lot of puppetry, the puppeteers will be on stage. Sometimes they will be all in black and Max.
Yeah. The Bunraku puppetry, they dress like ninjas. They're all dressed in black, so you can see them, but you can't see them, especially if the puppets are these were fluorescent painted puppet pieces that we did. So yeah, I mean, they definitely took the focus off the people in black that were moving them around. But yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
and
amazing
there's
to see.
some puppetry that even plays on that, where you'll have the audience reaction. An example of that, I'm fast forwarding to the 50s. I want to go back to the history of puppetry, but while we're talking about the reaction, is Lamb Chop was a sock puppet, but I just have this. I don't really use it, but I just for nostalgia have it. But a lot of that interaction was Sherry Lewis talking to the puppet and reacting. So that's a good example of that. You don't necessarily have to be hidden as a puppeteer, and I think that's important or interesting as well. I think,
and then you're venturing into ventriloquism, So.
Correct. And then there is debate: is that puppetry? Is that ventriloquism? So it's I think it is part of puppetry, but it's not necessarily. It's its own entity. It is of course puppetry because you're animating that, but that is a silo in and of itself, or an art form in and of itself, because you're adding that additional talent of being able to not show that you're doing the voices. I can remember as a child trying that and having very little patience to do it. And I don't want to spend too much time in it, but I think it's worthwhile to mention as well, when you talked about the history and when did it start, masks. Masks are a powerful form. While they're not technically maybe puppetry, they're certainly incorporated a lot. And those certainly go back, in many different cultures and many different capacities. I don't know a lot about Native American indigenous puppetry, but I just this week saw there was a webinar on it, and it came across my feed, and I had wanted to spend more time to look at it before I came on this podcast. I didn't have a chance, and then I realized I would never be able to talk about it with enough knowledge anyway. But I think it's interesting just what a strong culture that has as well. And when we think about puppetry, now I'm forwarding a lot, but think about vaudeville, cabaret. A lot of puppetry history comes out of that theater flavor as well. So, and again, ventriloquism. So it really has such a rich tradition. And then let's talk about some of the styles. You were mentioning styles. I've already gone through, clearly, there's so many, it's going to be hard to do it all, but you can have, again, a very basic sock puppet. This is one that I made. I just made this recently. It's the first sock puppet I've ever made. And oh God, I really need to get used to this camera being sideways. Going.
Troy Gould said he wants to hear the puppets talk.
I'm going to let Rory do that. Can you maybe voice this one?
Geez.
This is going to be complicated too, because he's going to be trying to voice it while I'm doing it.
Simple snake. So there it is. It's good to be here. Kathy's taking good care of me, feeding me well, as you can see.
Right. So that was good, and especially because we're doing it in Congress. Normally, it would be a little more like, and now I'm better talking. But again, I think just that, that's, I don't need to talk about sock puppets too much, but even things like finger puppets. I brought a few finger puppets, so I want to show an example of when I said it's so here's two finger puppets, and oh my God, I need to really get this mirror idea. So here's two finger puppets, but I'll show you a concept of when I talk about like how do we do theater so easily. I am now behind this brick wall, and there's the puppets. Hopefully you can see them there in the screen, or maybe they're not in the screen. But that concept of I just built a brick wall and disappeared behind it so quickly that, is just a piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
So I love the simplicity of
That's
puppets.
why,
like
yeah,
that.
my memory of puppets when I was always like, it's always some kind of stage, and we used to like make one. Like you said, out of cardboard. We just get some cardboard that had folds in it already, and just cut out a little thing, or maybe fold down a little thing so
With
it
a
looked
little
like a
felt.
little canopy, and then that would become the stage, and then we would hide behind the cardboard, and then pop up with our puppets.
There's not much better as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's my stage, one of my stages back there, and it's a cardboard cutout, and I cannot tell you how many times I carried like a freezer box with a refrigerator box with a hole cut out of it into to an event or to someplace, and it still surprises me the impact that it has. In fact, I joke and tell the story that the first time I did my own show was with a longtime collaborator of mine, Kathleen McKee, shout out. We did we created this puppet show, and we had a freezer box that I had spray painted, and we were going to a big event, like a talent show. And when we got there, I was ready to turn around and leave, because there was the caliber of talent was so high. There were flamethrowers, there were full bands, it was just, it was, and we had this cardboard box, and we were doing a shadow puppet show that we had written. And I looked at her, I said, I misjudged this. We need to leave now. Like, I'll get the car. And she's like, no, it's good. And the judges, they had judges on a podium with laptops scoring everything. And I thought, I really misread this situation. Well, true story. We ended up winning first place.
Wow.
Wow.
And I mean, truly, I myself I could not have seen it coming, but it's one of those things where it really can be very powerful. And that was a show for adults, and it was kind of risque.
Also, I wanted to just add, not to cut you off or anything, but just for the people that are watching, I just wanted to let people know, and Rory, that Kathy's also a musician. She has music out. She has I don't know how many albums, but I was listening to some of the songs that you sent me the link. And are you on Spotify?
I'm not on Spotify. I'm on Bandcamp.
Okay. Well, I was listening to your music. You're a songwriter, you're a musician, performer. You're friends with Misty Mayhem. She's the one that connected us. And she did puppets when she was on my show, Rory. Do you remember when Misty pulled out her puppets?
I don't think I was on that show.
You weren't? Yes, you were. I think you were.
I don't think I was on that.
Pretty sure you were.
I think I would have remembered puppets.
I'm pretty sure you were. But anyway, I just, for everyone that's just tuning in, I wanted to let everybody know a little background on Kathy. So, but yeah, she's. I
appreciate that. Yeah,
really,
Misty and I know each other from Florida, and here's a fun trivia fact if you didn't know. Misty's an amazing musician, and we used to our bands would play together for on the same bills a lot, and she actually was Bo Diddley lived in our town and was a mentor to her. And she produced a video with him in it that I'm also luckily, and she put out a call one morning. We got an email or social media note, like, come as you are, like, just to our video. We're doing a video shoot today.
You're in the video too?
So I'm actually in a video with Bo Diddley, which
cool.
I think to this day is one of the coolest things, and it's thanks to Misty. Yeah. So.
I've seen her pictures, and yeah, you can definitely tell her star-studded, quality and level of musicianship is definitely, you can tell she's definitely trained under somebody that's got soul like Bo Diddley,
Yeah,
so,
and she definitely did. But I will say she had it even before she met him. She was just
she had it. Yeah,
she showed up. I think she was 19, and she came to town, and she just blew the doors off of the scene. Yeah, I'm not. I'm
Which-
not. Putting my,
and
I'm
you've
not even
done-
pretending that I'm in the same echelon that he
yes.
is. But
Everybody's
but
an
I've had
artist.
some. But I've been in some bands, and I am a songwriter and performer, and yeah, and I mentored for Girls Rock Camp for many years, which is a great organization that empowers young women to find their voice and be loud and, learn instruments. So that's a little plug for Girls Rock Camps all around the country.
And haven't you done puppet shows with Misty too?
I have not.
You haven't? Okay. I know she's done some.
Yeah, no, I've done, so like I said, I did shows, honestly, for the last few decades, since the 2000s, early 2000s, I did shows really just in my hometown, or the town I was living in Florida. And then I recently, when because I was working, like a corporate job or full-time job, when I a few months ago decided to do this full time, I just did a show. I went to a puppet festival in Atlanta and did what's called a puppet slam, which is like not an open mic, but an event for puppeteers to come together and do like a curated. There's something called a potpourri, which is like an open mic, and then there's more like an invitational series. So I did a show for that. So I did that in Asheville over the summer. I just did it. I toured to Florida and brought the show to Florida, and now I'm doing it in North Carolina this week. So, and then I will give
And
another plug.
you go to companies and help like do some team building with corporations and whatnot.
I can, and I think that that's a really good point about puppetry, is the different ways it can be used. Again, it's, of course, for entertainment. Puppets can make you laugh. They can make you cry. I've seen things of other puppeteers, skilled puppeteers, where, I mean, just the emotions that it's elicited in me are amazing. So as far as what I do is, I do original shows for, whatever, for children, for adults, for events or for festivals. But sure, if a corporation wanted to do something like a creative team building, I could certainly do that. This isn't something that I've really done, but traditionally puppets are used in
I could
therapeutic.
see how it could make a boring meeting or a boring class. It could, keep people awake.
Spice it up.
Well, wasn't there? I know.
Spice it up a bit.
I'm thinking of like Prank Anchors, but wasn't there a show that did? I'm trying to think of what it was. No, maybe I'm not thinking of. But do you remember the show Crank? That's different. But yeah, I think puppetry. I think puppetry should be.
Crank Yankers is the one you were thinking of, the one.
Now.
But I know what you're talking about, where they impersonated celebrities with big styrofoam heads, or not styrofoam, but
there's
like
a
foam.
segue. Here's a puppet that I recently made for a show. Speaking of celebrities with big styrofoam heads, this is my Dee Schneider puppet, so he can rock. And that's so just when you said big, puppet personality with big styrofoam head, so that gets a good reaction when I bring him out. I feel like we're getting close to the hour, so I have all my notes I haven't even covered yet, but let me see.
The hours always fly by.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your first time on my show, it goes so fast. And Rory, he also has a couple different shows. He's had many shows on the network. We don't really call them podcasts, but we call them it's Cosmos Creative Television Network. So it's where everyone brings their own creative ideas and has their own show, just has their own creative flow and direction. So Rory has a few shows, and we used to do a painting show and trivia.
Was it Spitting Image that you were thinking of? Spitting Image?
I'm sorry, you talking to me?
Yes.
Well, you repeat that?
Spitting Image was a show where they actually did celebrity puppets, doing sketches and stuff, but it with these big foam puppets, sculpted puppets, looking like Cher and Michael Jackson and what have you. I thought that's what you were talking about. I'm sorry.
There was
I
that
was
one.
thinking of something and then I realized I didn't remember it enough, but I think I remember that. But
There was that
think
one
about-
show in the 80s where the guy was an architect, but he always had a puppet, the father. And
Really?
he had like the two cute daughters, like one was blonde, one was a brunette, and his daughters were always causing stress. But he was an architect and he always had a puppet. Whenever he was stressed, he would talk to his. Do you remember that show, Rory? It was like not Three's Company. It was right around the same time as Three's Company.
I remember that there was a character on Soap that had a puppet, like a ventriloquist puppet that he talked to.
Soap.
Yeah.
Soap?
I don't.
But that's the one I can remember.
Okay.
Well, it's another, of course, big one was Alf.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And ironically, I didn't ever watch that show. But of course, when I was going through just kind of doing a little like the history of puppets for this, kind of getting ready, I was looking at different, puppets in media just to kind of, do the range of it. But we're really running quickly out of time, so I don't know if I should stop. I have a marionette I was going to show you. I have lots of different puppets, or I can talk some more, but maybe I'll stop and see if there's any questions you have, or if there's something particular you'd like me to cover.
No, I think we did a lot of talking. I think you should do some do like a little skit for us, and then maybe play a song if you have your guitar handy.
Show us what you got anyway.
Okay, well, I'll show you, I think, a nice marionette. Oops. Way too many puppets are in here. So I got this puppet out because and I'll have to stand up to have you see this. Can you see me? Okay. So I got a little step stool to stand on to do this. So this is not going to be a skit, but this is a type of puppet that is kind of famous called Pelham puppets, and they were made to be very user friendly. And this one, for example, it's called, and actually I got this so it wouldn't make so much noise. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So he can actually do this and, rock out. And so I have another puppet that I use with him, as part of a skit, but I didn't, actually plan out a skit, but I think just to show you, kind of what puppets can do. And like I said, Pelham was, I think in the 50s or in the 60s, sold, and they're very collectible, and they make really beautiful puppets. I have one. Well, that's going to take a little while to get out, but let me see. I will show you. I have one from Prague, a beautiful marionette that I was going to bring out, but I think that probably time-wise, we may not have enough time for that. But it's just the quality of it is just so extraordinary. It's really a piece of art. Maybe I'll just show you. I won't manipulate it, but I keep him in this box. But
Wow.
it's one of my truly. So some people make puppets like this. I actually have a few friends who are beautiful puppeteers and puppet makers. I don't make this quality of puppet, but can you see? Like it really looks. Yeah, I mean, it's just the workmanship is gorgeous. And when you do, I mean, even just down to the hands and the clothing. So when I do shows with this, that's one that really comes to life. I need to be careful not to tangle him. He's very delicate. But let me just put him down here.
What kind of string is that? Is that like fabric string or plastic string?
That is not plastic string. That's a good question. There's for marionette string, you know, I don't know the answer to that. I know that there's different types of string, and maybe I've never actually Googled to buy marionette string, but it's a, you know, it's a pretty heavy string because that puppet is actually quite heavy. Most of them are light, but you know, it's a good question. I'm sure there's a marionette string or different, you know, I'm sure there's sites for that, but I'm going to Google it after this.
Yeah, I wonder what if maybe each artist uses different things. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will depend on the you know, the heaviness of the puppet and kind of want it to move. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
this is a puppet I love.
Wow, that's cute.
And again, I didn't make this, but
Eyes are great.
this is
That's
a great
awesome.
example of you can get a really good, you know, sorry, I'm doing this with my left hand. I normally use my right hand. So, but I use this in the Halloween show. The video I did. But yeah, I love, again, he looks so real. Like he really can, you know, kind of, and he's got this great tail that wags. So when you say like, do I make, you know, puppets? Yes, but you know, the puppets that I'm making are, you know, very, you know, you know, different levels. So.
Can Rory get one of those? How much do those go for? Your friend makes them and sells them, or is it one of a kind?
Which one?
The last one you just showed us.
That one, I just found it. This was like a thrift. And again, when I said that I'm like a puppet hoarder, I have so many puppets. This is another good example. I had this puppet for, I don't even know, 10 years and had never used it. And then when I did this, I just thought, when I saw it, I said, this is so great.
I want to get one like that for Rory. I'll buy him. Yeah. I'm gonna get Rory one like that.
Yeah. And again, you know, it's just, it's such a good puppet. But I just found it and
I love it.
Probably pay that much for it. But I got it thinking, maybe I'll use this for something someday. So I have boxes of things like that where I thought, okay, you know, this is a little bit of a college fund for my my future puppetry. But I think they help inspire you to be creative. So, you know, it's one thing to, you know, creativity comes in many forms, and you can have an idea and then build it, but you can also see something and then that can inspire you to create something.
We like the machine washable puppets at our house.
Yeah.
Because if they get in food or chocolate on them or anything, jelly, peanut butter, you can just throw them in the washing machine.
It's funny you say that because I was talking about the Freddie Mercury marionette I have, and I said I'd had him for 20 years and never used him, and I was so excited to use him for the show. And he has this like white pant jumpsuit on, and it had gotten dirty from just all, you know, driving around the years. And I was like, this is not going to look good on TV. And but I couldn't wash him, put him in the washing machine because he was a marionette. But I actually had to clean him off, kind of do some dry cleaning, puppet dry cleaning before I showed him off. But again, if you want to see that video, and that's something that's going to be new for me, I've just recently started doing videos, and that's a big plan of mine for Hoopla Puppetry. And I actually want to give a shout out. I just got a grant from our city, Wilmington Arts has an annual grant that they give out to creatives in the town, artists. And I was a recipient of that grant, and I just found that out a few weeks ago. So, and that's to do web puppetry, and I'm doing that for the first time. So I'm really excited about that, but I want a good opportunity to thank them. And that's going to be, so although there's only one video up on my YouTube right now, which was that $40 film festival, I'm going to be this coming year putting up a lot of, hopefully, or some web-based videos for adults and for children. And my goal is to do it for adults and for children. So,
yep.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, everyone go follow Kathy. And I was looking for you on TikTok. You're not on TikTok. There's a lot of puppeteers on TikTok.
Yeah, I need to. So again, I need to get on there, and I probably will. I really just launched, no exaggeration, last month, and it's I don't know if they can say it, Hoopla Puppetry. Like, what's all
I
this
like
about?
it. You got a logo and everything.
So yeah, so that's the logo. So I mean, I just came up with the name and logo last month and launched it last month. So I will hopefully be getting on the socials. So right now, Facebook and Instagram, and I know that especially Instagram they don't have a lot there now, but you can get it on the ground floor and start enjoying the evolution.
My last question, I think, is
Yeah.
do you have the Alfred Hitchcock episode where he has the puppet in the suitcase and can't get rid of the thing, it keeps turning up and it's haunting him, and other people keep taking it home, and he ends up coming back to his original owner, and he's like a nightmare. Do you remember that one, Rory?
I have a vague memory of it.
Vague.
Or how about
Cliff
Slappy?
Robertson is a ventriloquist, and the dummy takes over at the end, and
Yes.
he looks like Robertson, and Cliff Robertson looks like the dummy.
Yes.
I'll need to go.
Terrified me as a
I'll
kid.
need to go YouTube that. But one of my favorite puppet things that I've seen recently, and now it's one of my favorite puppet things of all time, I just discovered it, was, have you seen the puppet scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Mm-mm.
Well, I cannot recommend
yes,
it highly enough. I had never seen that movie. It's a romantic comedy, and it wasn't my, but Jason Segel wrote it. Jason Segel, and he is a big puppeteer, big fan of puppetry. He actually wrote the Muppet movie that came out in the 2000s and started it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, there is a really magnificent puppetry finale in that movie, and you can Google just that on YouTube as well. If you put in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, it's a Dracula puppet thing, and it's just genius.
Yeah,
so that's a really good, if you are looking for you want to, after you leave this podcast, if you say, I want to go check out some puppetry, just even in general, go on YouTube, or like you said, TikTok. I haven't really been on TikTok, so I need to check it out, but there's a lot of good. Oh, and I want to give a pitch as well. If you might be surprised in your hometown or in your nearby, Google puppetry. There are a lot of puppet groups around, troops around the man. No, but I always tell, if you're ever in Atlanta, we have an institute, Atlanta Institute of Puppetry, has a museum. I think they have a dedicated exhibit for Henson, but they also have just rotating exhibits, but they also have performances both for children and adults, and it's truly a treasure. So if you're in Atlanta or near Atlanta, we have a lot of viewers in Atlanta, right, Rory?
Yes, indeed.
We have tons.
So they're a great resource. If you're in New York, has a booming puppet. New York City has a really robust puppetry community. I'm jealous. I'm on some of the mailing lists, and I see. As long as no puppets follow me home, I'll go. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, bring the puppets. Yeah.
Have you seen Goosebumps with Slappy? I'm still Slappy creeps me out. I do not like Slappy. I don't. You have any of those puppets that look like Slappy? What is this? Goosebumps. The children's
scary stories. There's a
stories.
ventriloquist puppet that the name Slappy. He's a bad character.
He's bad, and it's like for young kids. It's a young kids audience. They have the books, and there's the movies out, and like in the 90s, and Slappy's like this creepy, bad puppet that he gets the kids to do bad things. And then he doesn't take the blame for it. He doesn't take any blame.
It was the
you don't want Slappy following you home.
He disappears when it's time to get in trouble. He's nowhere to be found.
You need to start watching more happy puppet stuff. I mean, you don't need to, but all the
puppetry I've done is bad puppets.
I'm a fan of bad puppets too.
You just remind me of two other sketches that we did for Dr. Piranha that had puppetry involved in it. One of them was we were doing a riff on this Twilight Zone episode with the gremlin on the airplane wing.
Oh yeah.
So we had a puppet for that, a big puppet, a full-size puppet, and we did Care Bears of the Damned, which was another sketch, and we were animating little Care Bears that were made up to look evil.
Care Bears of the Damned just sounds great. My Rhode Island accent almost came out there. I was gonna be like Care Bears of the Damned. So
Care Bears of the
it's been a
Damned.
long time since I've had my accent come through that strong, but
Hey, yo, you ever seen an Italian duck?
Care Bears of the Damned. I love that. Yeah, I love that humor.
Come hang out on Brooklyn
element.
in Brooklyn on the corner, and you'll see a whole bunch of us ducks over there. Italian ducks.
There's actually, and I haven't seen it, but there was a movie they did a full, and I can't believe I haven't seen it. A full length movie in the theaters for adults, and Melissa McCarthy was in it. I can't remember the name now, but I need to watch it.
I know what you're talking about.
It was like a murder. It was a murder mystery.
It was a murder mystery, and it was done with the Muppet, the Henson, Jim Henson's son.
Yeah, and it was literally like the main characters were puppets.
Yes.
Interspersed with humans.
I'm looking it up on IMDb right now.
Yeah, I was looking up so many things for this podcast, and I had a long list of movies. I Googled like what movies are puppets in, and kind of some references. But we've run out of time for me to go through all that. But that was one that I thought, oh, how did I never see that? Because I remember when it came out being so excited. I think I was trying to get a whole group of people to go, and that ended up happening. And for some reason I didn't go myself.
Well, Kathy, I'm gonna be
Happy Time Murders.
This is probably my last show of the year for No Icing. I have another show where I interview surfers, but that's that's depending if they're not surfing. It's hard to get them to come. It's hard to get the surfers to come do a show. They're always surfing.
I live in a surf town now, and I was wondering why it's hard sometimes to get contractors. And someone told me it's because if it's a surf day, they just don't show up. I'm like, I made appointments with people. They're like, yeah, they're surfing. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
so I get it. Yeah. You gotta have your priorities,
But next year, so over the holidays, I'm gonna be booking my shows for next year. So Kathy, I'd love to have you back.
Oh, thank you so much. I'd love to come back.
And I want to hear some more updates about what you've been doing. So I'll get in touch with you and we'll book for next year because the holidays is a good time for me to just really sit down and build my calendar up for the next year. So
well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you both, to talk about puppets. I love that you both brought puppets, and
thank you. Yes.
It was super fun, and I could talk about puppets for a long time. So I really appreciate it. And as I said earlier, it was it meant a lot to me. It was very validating and very encouraging that as I, kind of took this leap of faith to land on your podcast, talking about for creatives, talking about puppets was just good. Seems like good karma, good intuition.
Yeah,
so,
and Rory's the perfect. He's the perfect show host for an episode like this because he's got so many voices.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. I may hit you up too when I start.
Yeah, haven't even done Big Bird yet.
Oh, Bird.
I actually met him when I was at UConn years ago. He came to a children's literature class I had, and he presented there. Was amazing. Do you know, just as we're ending on puppetry, do you know how that puppetry was done? You can't see with my own, but he actually did that with his hand up high as how he was so high, and that beat. So he did that. Well, soon down, you can't really see, but his name was Carol Spinney, was the puppeteer who did Big Bird.
Yeah,
and that's how he did Big Bird.
He's got one arm
in the air, so he would do those shoots for that whole
arm
time.
is up in the beak, like you said, and then the other arm is what he uses for his hand, and then the other hand is actually hooked on a wire so that it moves.
Correct.
But again, he does all the puppetry with the one hand. Yeah. Because the other hand's up in the mouth, like you said, working the mouth.
Yeah. Wow. He was so I just remember him being so just, I don't know, humble isn't the word, but just so like, you know, because I was like, Big Bird, you know, and he was, you know, just he was really, really, really thoughtful
He's
person.
always one of my favorites as a kid because he always had his nest and his teddy bear, and he was always sweet.
And do you know that the concept behind it, I think they made him to be age, I want to say 5 or 3, and he was designed to be a child of that age so that children could relate to that cognitive, emotional level. So when he's bewildered, like he's exploring the world and figuring out where he gets scared or confused or, you know, different emotions. That's how the creator of Sesame Street, which was Jan Gantz Cooney, developed that character to really be a child, truly be a child of that cognitive age. They did a lot of research.
Well, and next time we
Yeah.
can maybe hear you
I
play.
need to stop talking about that.
I want to hear you play the guitar next time. So
Okay. Oh, and we're not going to do it. I was going to do it as an outro instead of playing guitar, but we realized that we can't maybe do it for copyright reasons. But there's a song called Puppet Man by the Fifth Dimension that I was going to play it as we went out, but I won't do it for copyright. But if you want to on your own, it's a song that I didn't know until, again, I was kind of prepping for this podcast. And now I'm like, Puppet Man, it's like pull your strings. And yeah, it's like a disco kind of groovy vibe. So you can put that on afterwards if you want.
Something
But
William
again,
Shatner might sing.
what?
Something William Shatner might sing.
I think there's
Oh my God.
there's a new song by
Max.
Tyler, the Creator, has a song about puppets, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm so diving in deep now with all this stuff. So all right, I again thank you so much, and it was great to have the chance to talk to you both.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your comments, and hello to the replay people, and thanks to everybody for watching. And we have thanks Rory for a great year together, and we did it, and
What's
I'm
on the
looking
hoopla
forward
about?
to it. I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah, congratulations to you all for a season. That is such
a great
a
year. Yeah,
yeah,
a lot of amazing guests. One guest. Everyone was so amazing. All year is just one amazing guest after the next. So we came in with a bang. Now we're going out with a bang.
I'm glad to have been part of it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
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 Getting salty with Sandy here at the beach. Stand on my feet. There's no place that I would rather be than getting salty with Sandy D.